Hi friends, I think it's time to do my January TBR. I'm sorry that it's a few days late, but I'm sure you all know what it's like starting the new year, especially if you have kids and they are returning to school. So I've made a very ambitious TBR for January, but I am doing the 75 booked challenge. So that means I will be dedicating more time than I usually would to reading in the evenings or with any downtime that I manage to get between family and work commitments. So I'm hoping that I get through at least most of these, but we'll see how we go. So first up, much to my shame, is A Sky Beyond the Storm by Sabaa Tahir. So I really love Sabaa Tahir's writing, and I have this awful problem where I read an entire series and then I don't want the world to end, so I just don't read the last book. And that's exactly what I've done with this series. I love the Ember Quartet. The first three books were phenomenal and I flew through them, and then I just never picked up A Sky Beyond the Storm. So this is a priority read for me this month. I really want to finish this series, find out what happens to these characters, and just really immerse myself in this world one final time. So I'm anticipating this being one of my top reads of the month. So we'll see if we can stick the landing, which I think we will. So that was that one. Next up is one I'm really hoping that I love, but I'm just not sure of at this point. That is The Summer War by Naomi Novik. I have this beautiful sprayed edges edition. You can see there, it's just really, really pretty. And I'm not normally a sprayed edges person, but I just really enjoyed the colour palette with this one. So Naomi Novik is an author that I really want to love. I've tried with the Temeraire series and I got about 4 books in and it just wasn't clicking for me. It just felt a bit samey and I just wasn't loving it, so I put that series down. But some of my very good friends who are also big fantasy readers have said they loved Spinning Silver and Uprooted, which are fairy tale retellings, and I do love a fairy tale retelling. So I thought rather than pick up one of those, I would pick up this little novella, which is set in the same world as she's created with those other two tales, and see if I like this style of writing from her. And I'm really hoping that I do. I'll be so upset if this one doesn't click for me, so keep your fingers crossed for me, guys, that this one is a hit, because I would really love to love this book. This book follows Celia, who is a young girl who curses her brother when he abruptly leaves the family, and this curse haunts her. It's not something that she feels she can live with, because it was a curse made when she was an angry child, and now as a woman grown, she wants to right that wrong. So I believe she sets out to break this curse. So it has all the makings of a really great fairy tale. So let's see how it goes. Next up is a trio of books. That is these three here. So this is the first half of The Mortal Instruments by Cassandra Clare. So this is the first trilogy, and then there is a second trilogy, but it is recommended you read the prequel trilogy between this half and the other half. These are rereads for me. I read these when I was, I must have been about 18 or 19 when I read these books, and I really enjoyed them at the time, and I'm really hoping they hold up. I'm hoping that the nostalgia factor kind of glosses over anything that as an older reader I may not enjoy quite as much. And I just always remember having such a blast with these that it could be really fun to reread them. There's also the incentive of the fact that she's expanding this world. So Cassandra Clare is releasing a new trilogy set in the same Shadowhunters world, I believe in September or October this year, so end of 2026. And I'm hoping, grand plans being made, that I will catch up with all of the books. I read nearly all of them when they first were being released. I think I've only missed out on the most recent ones, so I'm going to try every month to read 3 of them. They're long-ish books, but they are young adult writings. So I tend to fly through these a bit quicker, so I'm hoping I can get through them really quickly. So I'll be starting with City of Bones, then moving on to City of Ashes, and then finally City of Glass. For anybody who's been living under a rock and doesn't know what the Shadowhunter Chronicles are, this trilogy follows Clary Frey, who is all of a sudden, at the disappearance of her mother, plunged into this world that she never knew existed. It has vampires, it has demons, it has werewolves, and it has shadow hunters, which are the half angel, half human protectors of the mundane or human world. They are setting out to fight demons, and they are elite warriors. But Clary has had no training. She didn't know this world existed, and all of a sudden it becomes the centre of her universe. And of course, there is Jace Wayland, who is just, if you were a 2000s teenager, he was the heartthrob. So I'm really excited to get back into these because I think I will have such a fun time reading them. And I might even do a reading vlog as I get further into the series to log the teenage angst nostalgia as I feel it. So this next book will come as a surprise to nobody if you've been looking at my Instagram, because I am carrying on with the Tawny Man trilogy. So this is Robin Hobb's third trilogy in the Realm of the Elderlings. The Realm of the Elderlings is a 14 to 16 book series, depending on if you count the other little books. So there is a short story and then there's a short story collection. I'm choosing to include those because I want to be a completionist about it. Now, Fool's Fate, I am already part way through because I did start it in December, but I would like to finish it this month. This is the final book in the Tawny Man trilogy. So book 9/10, depending on if you've read the short story. I know I'm going to love this book. I have loved every book that I've read of Robin Hobb so far, and I've just been flying through them. In December, I read Ship of Destiny, Fool's Errand, and The Golden Fool, and most of this book. So I know this will be a 5-star read, and I haven't even finished it yet. But stay tuned, just in case I'm wrong, but I highly doubt it. And it is a chunky book, but I feel like once you've started these books and you've got through the first 2 or 3, you stop seeing them as really long books and you start seeing it as a pleasure to dive into that world for longer. So don't be put off if you haven't picked up The Realm of the Elderlings yet, because they are really fantastic books. It is epic fantasy at its best. It is essentially what Tolkien managed to capture with the enormity of Middle Earth, but written in a more modern style and with much more character depth. You're inside these characters' heads to such an intimate level that you feel like you know them as well as your own family members. And if you are a character-driven reader like I am, or you love epic fantasy and massive series don't daunt you, and you haven't picked this up, where have you been? You need to read these. Next up is one that my friend Alice has been nagging me to read for the last few months, and that is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. This is a standalone fantasy, I believe, and I'm trying to go into this as blindly as possible. I believe it features elite magic users and overcoming sexism and strong female protagonists. So all the things that we like reading over here. And I have read The Sword of Kayan by Emma Wang years ago and loved it. So I haven't read anything else by this author since. I don't know if there have been any other books by this author. So let me know if I'm mistaken on that. But I'm really excited to read this book. It's not super long, and Alice said she read it in 2 days. So I'm hoping that I can do the same, because I have heard absolutely incredible things about this. I've been watching a lot of people's top 10 fantasy books of 2025, and it was in there for so many of you. So hopefully it will end up being one of my top books of 2026. And then finally, I know this is a lot of books, pray for me, I probably won't finish them all, but I also have Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. I feel like in 2025, I tried so hard to read cozy fantasy, and I read one good one, and everything else just missed the mark for me. They felt samey or repetitive, or like they were talking down to you as a reader and underestimating the level of intelligence of the readers. And I just didn't enjoy cozy fantasy last year, and it's winter, and here in the UK winters can be a bit dreary, so cozy fantasy is kind of what you want to read by the fire with a hot chocolate when it's dark outside. And I'm so hoping that this hits the mark, as I'm also trying to go into this one reasonably blind. It's hard because this is a well-lauded fantasy book, but I believe it follows an ex-warrior who has retired and has opened a coffee shop. So all the makings of a really great fantasy book. I'm kind of hoping that it has a very D&D style narrative to it, and I believe it was self-published at first and then became a traditionally published book. So let's see how I get on with this one. I might prioritize this one more towards the beginning of the month, and then if I do really enjoy this book, I can then carry on with the series through February and March for the next two books. But let me know what you thought of this book. If you have read it or if it is on your TBR, please let me know. Equally, if any of those books are on your TBR and you fancy doing a buddy read, let me know, because accountability always helps us to keep reading rather than just doom scrolling. But let's see how we go. I'll post some reviews as I go through for some of these books. I won't post review videos specifically for the ones that are carrying on series because they could be spoilery for those who haven't read the rest of the series yet. But anything that's a first book or standalone, I will post a little review for you on here. So keep an eye on my shorts and let me know what you guys are reading and what you're anticipating getting to this month.